I'm just starting my app here to make sure I stay on time. It's humbling for me to be in a room with so many engineers. I'm a recovering economist by trade, and I am mindful. One of the things that I enjoy most about my job is the opportunity to meet with engineers, to actually go and see what is being created, what comes next, what comes after what comes next. And it's a very, very exciting time indeed. Just very quickly, for those of you who don't know EDTA, the Electric Drive Transportation Association was founded in the late 80s. So we've been at this for a while. Some of you have been indeed toiling in this vineyard for even longer. We are a very unusual collaboration. It started out as a collaboration between the vehicle manufacturers and the utility industry, which got my attention immediately. These are two industries that typically have not worked well together over the years in the world of emissions. But here they were, and here they are, working together to bring a technology solution in the marketplace. Add to that all of the upstream manufacturing all the way to the top of the food chain, which is literally lithium miners, FMC Corporation and Rockwood and the like, and all the way down the food chain, as it were. The value chain is probably a better way to think of that, to the actual vehicle manufacturers, fleet operators, Best Buy, Hertz, et cetera. So it is not an industry that I have the good fortune to serve. It's really a community of interest. And it's going to take a very, very large community of interest to get done what we have in our mission statement, which is to bring electric drive technology into the mainstream. I don't entertain the conceit that I can inspire you any more than you already are inspired listening to one another. But I do think that my perspective on this, the way I think of the context that we're working in, is what an enormous opportunity we have with electrified transportation. One of the reasons why we've been so challenged with bringing alternatives into the picture, creating fuel diversity, as it were, is that we have to have vehicles moving in parallel with our fuel structure. And that's extremely difficult to do. It's been one of the reasons why we've ended up in the place that we are, where we are so dependent upon one global commodity, which we don't control the price of, and we won't control the price of in the future. With electrified transportation, we have this opportunity with vehicles which have been electrifying, as many of you know, for decades. And we run into the same kinds of challenges that it turns out we run into with the grid, which has to get more reliable, it has to get smarter, it has to get cleaner over time. One of the things that we run into in both places, for example, is energy storage. And I think of electric vehicles sometimes when I'm just getting up early in the morning as energy storage on four wheels. But there are lots and lots of things that we can do with electrified transportation, and there are many benefits that stem from that. I'm going to come back to consumer education because that's essentially going to be the theme of what we're going to be doing in the EDTA in the very near future. In terms of benefits, I think many of you know of these, but I'm just going to cover quickly some of the things that get me moving every day. National security, we certainly are threatened by our dependence on a volatile and increasingly competitive global marketplace for oil. One of the things that I watch is the volatility of oil prices. And right now, with stocks at an all-time low and the global economy beginning to turn around, we're looking at tremendous volatility in prices for oil. So this is a concern for us in all of the attendant costs that are associated with that, with trying to protect our supply lines for oil. Obviously, electricity is a domestically produced commodity, if we want to think about it as a commodity. We can produce electricity from coal, we can produce it from wind, we can produce it from solar, we can produce it from natural gas, and I could go on, geothermal. But to an extremely high degree, this is a commodity and a fuel which we produce with domestic feedstock. That's extremely important to bear in mind. To the extent that we can reduce our dependence on foreign oil imports, we do ourselves an enormous service from a standpoint of our exchange as well, our international exchange. Last year, consumers paid $448 billion for gasoline alone. That was $100 billion more than the previous year, just consumers alone. Now, I'm pretty sure we're going to go up again this year, given where prices are and given the fact that more people are coming back into the economy. $100 billion. We think about what that $100 billion could do if it was back in our economy. So this is just in terms of the scale of what we're trying to do. Economic benefits. We all know that electricity is much better on a cost per mile basis than petroleum. We're going to hear from a gentleman from FedEx. They live or die by cost per mile. Many of us are thinking increasingly about cost per mile. Energy dollars also can stay here domestically. That's going to have an enormous economic benefit over time. And finally, economic jobs. Creating an advanced technology manufacturing base for the future. This is extremely important and should be a high priority for all of us. And finally, the environmental benefits. Third, less carbon emissions with our current base load mix, and of course that will get cleaner over time. We're reducing or trying to reduce and eliminate tailpipe emissions. It's much easier to keep to capture particulate matter, for example, at electricity sources. So there are enormous economic and environmental benefits that we can capture here. EDTA has primarily been an organization that's focused on Washington policy. And I'm pretty sure that at the front end of we've still got it. We've got a picture of the Capitol in the background there. I asked my staff, with approval ratings for Congress down around 7%, why are we still putting the Capitol in the background? This was supposed to give us some sort of sense of legitimacy and so forth. The other question I've been asking my staff is, what's the 7% thinking? We're really, I think, going to be challenged as we go forward here. But suffice it to say that there is still a tremendous amount of bipartisan support in Washington for reducing our dependence on oil. I didn't say foreign oil, I said oil, period, full stop. We want to create, and there is a desire to create greater and greater choice for consumers and fleet operators for fuel. There is a great desire to create the next generation of jobs, or jobs for the next generation, which will be sustainable over time, et cetera. So there's an awful lot of work to be done. Our action plan is in play. And in some instances, we're fighting rearguard action for the things that we've already achieved, and that's fine. None of this comes as a great surprise to me. I'll just tag up on it. There is also, as we're operationalizing transportation, electric transportation, there's a lot of regulatory things that come into the picture. My favorite is miles per gallon equivalent. What does that mean? We have to figure out ways of speaking and using our regulatory structure in a way that doesn't create confusion in the marketplace. And then, of course, money being such a big challenge, we've been working a lot on what are the non-financial incentives that can be used. And here leads me into my story that I wanted to tell you from this past weekend. I had the good fortune of addressing a group of county officials. And someone came up to me after my presentation from an oil state which shall go nameless. And he asked me, what assurances do we have that once we transfer all of our transportation over to electricity, that these rogue electricity companies aren't going to come after us and jack up our prices? So I'm going to let Mark from Duke actually speak to that. That's your setup, Mark. And I think, herein I want to credit all of you. A tremendous amount of work has been done here. It's a little bit frustrating for some of us as we are answering questions in the media to realize that even though we've been doing a lot of work, yeoman's work, creating vehicles that are absolutely stunning to drive, that get the highest consumer reports satisfaction ratings or the highest safety crash testing ratings that from either the independent organizations or NHTSA, that we still have questions about the legitimacy of this effort. But that to me suggests that we're now in a real game. And the game is, I think, a game that we can only win with the efforts of everyone here and around the world. We have got to take this extremely seriously and redouble our efforts when we're asked questions like, when it's cold outside, will the batteries freeze? Right on the heels of questions about thermal events. So an awful lot of work still needs to be done. I'm going to mention fleet adoption just also because we're going to hear also from our colleagues at FedEx. This is extremely important in terms of beginning to drive real volume in the marketplace, and we dare not lose sight of the fact that we have a tremendous amount of support and a tremendous amount of momentum building with our fleet operators. And these things are all connected. There are many, many, many different kinds of vehicles in our fleet writ large. And to the extent that we can demonstrate and we can build volumes and we can bring in many different kinds of vehicles at different price points, I think we again bolster the legitimacy of this effort and create even more momentum and draw more people into our collaborative environments. And finally, just to tag up on it, I noticed from just walking around that here too we have a lot of international representation. I had the good fortune of being able to host as EDTA the Electric Vehicle Symposium 26 this upcoming May in Los Angeles. We don't do this every year, so you have to do some math to realize that this actually started in the late 60s. This particular event started in the late 60s, and some of the people that come to the event were at the original event. So this is an effort that is going on all around the world. There is no question in my mind that this is a global technology phenomenon. And many people are motivated by the same things that we're motivated by, wanting to get away from fossil fuels, wanting to be less dependent upon a single global fungible commodity whose price we cannot control, that's controlled by a cartel. Creating fuel diversity, as it were. Utilizing our energy systems more efficiently and more effectively. This is essentially what is going to be discussed at this conference. It's going to be discussed at EVS, and it's going to continue to be discussed around the world. We invite you to join the conversation. I wanted to tag back up, and the slides are a little bit out of order, but you'll notice here Go Electric Drive. This is what we're calling a consumer-facing brand for the association. And it really started about 2.5 years ago as we started to get ready for the introduction of vehicles that plugged into the grid in the marketplace, the Volt and the Leaf. Tesla's product had already gotten quite a bit of attention, but I think it's fair to say as we're now starting to roll out on literally on a nationwide basis with these vehicles and others, we've created some challenges for ourselves. We've created challenges about the different kinds of configurations of electric drive. What's the difference between a plug-in hybrid and a range-extended vehicle and a battery electric vehicle, et cetera? These are the kinds of things that, in order for us to be successful and to get across, the valley of death, Geoffrey Moore's chasm, as it were, we really need to be talking with the consumer in a way that consumers can understand. We need to be providing consumers with access to the tools that they need to evaluate the vehicles, to see what the benefits are, and to decide whether or not it's exactly what they need for their own driving needs. I think my final message here is don't forget that these are really fun cars to drive. When it's all said and done, the thing that makes me most optimistic about our ability to succeed in the future, and I think we've had tremendous success up until now, but we're just really beginning to get to make the difference that we want to make over time. It is the fact that these cars, when people drive these cars, they want to buy these cars. And the numbers are stunning. If somebody walks into a ride, drive, and charge, most of the time they're about 35%. 35% of them are interested in driving the vehicles, in buying a vehicle. After they've driven the vehicle, that number goes up into the high 60s. So if we can get people in the cars, it will make an enormous difference. Don't forget that when you're doing a media interview. Smile. Tell people how much fun it is. That will make a huge difference. Thank you for all the work that you're doing.